Donald Trump once promised that the full Epstein files would be
Mr.
released,
President,
but today that
this
lie came
morning,
crashing
I
down in the
introduced
Senate.
a very
This
simple
morning, Senate
amendment
Democrats
that directs
introduced a
the
simple
Attorney
amendment,
General to
one that would
release
finally
the
compel the
Epstein
Attorney
files.
General to release the
It's the
Epstein
same
files
one,
in their
it's the
entirety.
same amendment
No
as the one working
conditions,
its
no
way in the
excuses,
House,
just
and
transparency.
the same one that my
It
good
should have been an
friend
easy vote.
from Oregon, who
After
just
all,
spoke
for
on
years,
another issue,
Republicans
has
stood
been
in
so
front of
active in
cameras,
championing.
pounding their fists,
As soon
demanding
as
those
today,
very same files.
As soon as today,
They told America that
Republicans
justice
have a
couldn't move
chance
forward
to
without
take a
them.
step
But when
further
the
in
moment
releasing the
came when the
files.
Senate was forced to
The same
decide, the
files
question wasn't
that
just
for
about
years
files, it was
they
about
have
truth.
said they wanted
It was about
released.
accountability.
What's that? Democratic leaders recognized.
Mr. President, this morning, I introduced a very simple amendment that directs the Attorney General to release the Epstein files. It's the same one, it's the same amendment as the one working its way in the House, and the same one that my good friend from Oregon, who just spoke on another issue, has been so active in championing. As soon as today, Republicans have a chance to take a step further in releasing the files. The same files that for years they have said they wanted released. If Republicans vote no, they'll be saying to the American people, you should not see the Epstein files. I asked my Republican colleagues, after all those years you spent calling for accountability, for transparency, for getting to the bottom of these awful crimes, why won't you vote yes? Let me remind my colleagues of the things they have said for themselves on the Epstein issue. After all, Leader McConnell said, quote, there's no question the accusations against Epstein are horrendous, and I think it's good news that they're being pursued further. That's what McConnell said. Whatever happened to that? The current majority leader, Senator Thune, said less than 2 months ago, yes, he said, we're all interested in making sure that justice is served and there is full disclosure and transparency. And what about Senator Blackburn, who said it's imperative we figure out who was involved with Jeffrey Epstein? That's the only way we're going to break apart this $150 billion a year human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Or Senator Johnson, who said, the alleged victims are entitled to know what happened. The American people are entitled to know what happened. Well, I could not agree more with all of them. To my Republican colleagues, I say, to every senator, I say, this is your chance now. You can vote right now to give transparency to the American people and reveal the files, or you can vote to hide the very files you've claimed to desperately want released for years. The choice lies with our Republican colleagues today. If Republicans vote no, they'll be saying the American people should not see the Epstein files. I say to my Republican colleagues again, if you vote no, I say to every senator, if you vote no, you'll be saying the American people should not see the Epstein files, plain and simple. The American people deserve transparency. The American people are sick of Donald Trump's endless string of pathological lies and cover-ups when it comes to the Epstein files. Trump lied when he promised he'd release the Epstein files. Trump lied when he said the FBI never told him if his name was mentioned in the files. Trump lied when he said he never wrote that gross, salacious letter to Epstein on his 50th birthday. And he lied last week when he called the whole thing nothing but a Democratic hoax. It's not a hoax, it's real, and Americans want to get to the bottom of it. Americans want transparency. From Trump, we're hearing one brazen lie after the other. From Trump, we're hearing a massive cover-up. Americans are wondering, what the heck is Donald Trump hiding? Well, we can take back that veil. We can release those files, take a big step to releasing those files by voting yes on my amendment. It's clear Donald Trump can't be trusted to tell the truth to the American people, so it should be up to the Senate to do so. The Senate must force the issue. And I say to my Republican friends, As long as you keep voting no, America's going to lose trust in government and lose trust in you. I yield the floor. And note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
And it was about whether the political system would finally stop protecting predators and start protecting survivors. But here's the twist: one name kept echoing through this debate: Pam Bondi. For years, Republican leaders swore they wanted full transparency on Epstein. Mitch McConnell once said there was no question Epstein's accusations were horrendous, and it was good news they were being pursued further. John Thune, now Majority Leader, said just 2 months ago we're all interested in making sure there is full disclosure. Marsha Blackburn insisted we needed to figure out who was involved, because that was the only way to crack open a $150 billion trafficking network. Senator Ron Johnson went further, declaring the victims and the American people were entitled to know. Strong words, righteous words. But when the spotlight turned their way, when the vote to actually make it happen landed on their desks, hesitation filled the chamber. Why? What changed? The answer leads back to a name that keeps complicating this entire saga: Pam Bondi. Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, made headlines when she told Fox News that the Epstein client list was sitting on her desk. It was a bombshell statement. The country leaned in, expecting a wave of revelations. But when she finally delivered, what she handed over was little more than a stack of already public documents, nothing new, nothing explosive. And the so-called list never materialized. The backlash was swift. Critics accused her of staging political theater. Supporters defended her, saying at least she was shining light on the case. But then came whispers of something bigger. According to a whistleblower, Bondi had pressured the FBI to speed up its review and produce additional Epstein files. If true, this wasn't just a PR stunt. It was a direct attempt to meddle with one of the most sensitive investigations in recent history. So the question lingers: why promise files that weren't delivered? Why tell the public the evidence was on your desk, only to provide scraps? And more importantly, what was Bondi really trying to hide? To understand the weight of this, you need to grasp the mystery of the Epstein files themselves. We already know pieces of the story. Epstein was a convicted offender. He had access to some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in the world. His private island, his Manhattan townhouse, and his jet became symbols of elite corruption. But here's what we don't know: how deep those connections ran. Which names, which favors, which institutions protected him? How much leverage did Epstein really have, and who was complicit in keeping him untouchable for so long? The files, according to investigators, hold thousands of pages of records, interviews, correspondence, travel logs, financial transactions. Some rumors claim they contain evidence of systemic cover-ups that implicate not just individuals but entire networks of influence. This is why Bondi's claim mattered so much. If she truly had access to those files, even in part, then why didn't she deliver the truth? And if she didn't, why say it in the first place? Because make no mistake, Pam Bondi is not just a bystander in this story. Her credibility, her choices, and her promises are directly tied to the Senate's debate today. When Schumer stood on the Senate floor demanding action, the shadow of Bondi's earlier statements loomed large. She had already raised expectations. She had already told Americans that answers were within reach. And yet when the chance came to pull back the curtain, the picture grew murkier instead of clearer. This is why her name keeps resurfacing. Not because she alone controls the truth, but because she symbolizes the larger problem: leaders who claim to fight for transparency but in practice deliver smoke and mirrors. And that's exactly what Schumer challenged his colleagues with. Enough with the rhetoric, enough with the promises. Now it was time to vote. But the fight isn't just about files sitting in a vault. It's about a system that allowed Epstein to thrive in the first place. Remember, Epstein is gone, but the trafficking networks that move billions each year, the culture of secrecy that shields the powerful, and the institutions that look the other way, they're still here. Pam Bondi once argued that releasing documents could help expose trafficking networks and reveal how they operate. That was her claim. And yet when she had the chance to provide that clarity, the documents she offered were incomplete at best, misleading at worst. If the promise was to protect victims, then where was the protection? If the mission was transparency, where was the truth? This is the contradiction at the heart of the Senate debate. Leaders cannot both posture as champions of justice while refusing to open the very files they say are essential. So Schumer's message cut deep. This was no longer about Democrats versus Republicans. This was about whether senators would stand with survivors or with secrecy. Would they follow through on their own words, or would they once again shield the powerful from accountability? Bondi's broken promises made that question sharper. Because if even she, the face of Republican demands for Epstein transparency, could not or would not deliver, what does that say about the rest of the party's sincerity? Was this ever really about justice, or was it always about politics? The Senate floor became more than a chamber of debate. It became a mirror showing hypocrisy, cowardice, and the cost of silence. And here's where you, the public, come in. Because the truth is, politicians only act when they feel pressure. For years they counted on outrage to fade, on the public to lose interest. That's why survivors' demands were brushed aside, why promises were made and broken, why names like Bondi's could dominate headlines without ever delivering substance. But today's amendment changes that. It forces a line in the sand. Do you vote for truth, or do you vote for secrecy? Do you side with survivors or with a system built to protect predators? The files are more than documents, they're a test of whether America is ready to confront its ugliest truths, a test of whether leaders will finally put victims ahead of elites, and a test of whether the public will stay silent or demand accountability. Pam Bondi's name will be remembered in this saga, not just for what she promised, but for what she failed to deliver. And today, as the Senate faces the same question, her legacy hangs in the balance. The truth is simple: the Epstein files are not going away. They will resurface, again and again, until someone has the courage to release them. And when that happens, it won't just be Epstein's story. It will be a story about the people who hid the truth, the institutions that looked away, and the politicians who chose silence over justice. So the choice is clear: stand with the truth, or stand with secrecy, stand with survivors or stand with the system that betrayed them. And if you believe the truth matters, if you believe survivors deserve answers, if you believe America can only heal through transparency, then don't look away. Keep watching, keep demanding, keep asking questions, because the moment the files are released will be the moment America decides whether it still has the courage to face itself. And that's why we'll be here, digging deeper, bringing you the facts, and holding leaders accountable. So if you want to stay on top of this fight, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video. The Epstein files are more than headlines. They are the key to understanding power, secrecy, and whether America still has the will to tell the truth.